The Hidden Fortune, a widow's discovery in the ashes of 1906. April 18, 1906, when the earth broke open. At 5:12 in the morning, the earth beneath San Francisco began to tear itself apart. For 48 seconds, the ground rolled and buckled, transforming a thriving city into rubble and flame. Buildings that had stood for decades collapsed in moments. Gas lines ruptured and ignited, sending walls of fire through neighborhoods already devastated by the quake. In those terrifying moments, over 3,000 people lost their lives, and more than 80% of the city was destroyed. Among the survivors was Eleanor Murphy, a 40-year-old widow who had buried her husband Thomas just 6 months earlier. She had thought herself destitute, left with nothing but a modest house and memories of a man who had worked as a simple dock clerk for 30 years. As she stood in the street watching her home burn, wearing only her nightgown and a borrowed coat, she believed she had lost everything. She had no way of knowing that beneath the smoking ruins lay a secret that would transform her understanding of the man she'd married, the life they'd lived, and the future she thought was impossible. The life they'd built on secrets. Eleanor and Thomas Murphy had lived in a modest 2-story house on Hayes Street for 17 years. Thomas worked at the Pacific Mail Steamship Company docks, coming home each evening with calloused hands and the smell of salt water on his clothes. They lived simply, not in poverty, but certainly without luxury. Eleanor mended their clothes multiple times, grew vegetables in their small backyard, and carefully counted every penny when shopping at the market. Thomas was a quiet man who rarely spoke about his work beyond general pleasantries. "Paperwork and cargo manifests," he'd say with a dismissive wave when Eleanor asked about his day. He never complained about his modest salary, never expressed ambition for more. They had no children, a source of quiet grief for Eleanor, which meant their small income stretched adequately for 2. What Eleanor never questioned was why Thomas insisted on personally maintaining the cellar. He'd installed a heavy lock on the cellar door years ago, explaining it was to keep rats from getting into their supplies. He went down there alone every Sunday afternoon, and Eleanor respected his privacy, assuming he was simply organizing or performing maintenance. She had no reason to suspect that her humble, reliable husband was hiding something that would have changed everything. The lonely months after loss. Thomas died suddenly in October 1905, collapsing at the docks from what the doctor called heart failure. He was only 43. Eleanor found herself alone in a world that offered widows few opportunities. The funeral depleted their modest savings. The Pacific Mail Steamship Company provided a small death benefit, $50, and sincere condolences, but no pension. Eleanor took in sewing and laundry to survive, her fingers raw from constant work. She considered selling the house, but couldn't bear to leave the place where she'd spent her marriage. Neighbors brought occasional meals and cast pitying glances. She learned to recognize the particular expression people wore when they looked at poor widows, a mixture of sympathy and relief that it wasn't them. She never went into the cellar. It remained locked, and she'd never thought to search Thomas's belongings for the key. What would be down there besides old tools and supplies? The house itself became her entire world, a place that held memories but offered no future. By April 1906, she had quietly begun accepting that she would likely lose the house within the year, unable to keep up with expenses. Then the earthquake came and made all those calculations irrelevant. The morning everything changed. The earthquake hit without warning, as earthquakes do. Eleanor was jolted from sleep as her bed lurched violently across the floor. The sound was indescribable, a deep grinding roar from the earth itself, mixed with the crash of breaking glass and splintering wood. She grabbed the doorframe as the house shook, watching cracks spider across the walls. A portrait of her mother fell and shattered. The chimney collapsed, sending bricks crashing through the roof. When the shaking finally stopped, Eleanor stumbled outside in her nightgown to find Hayes Street transformed into a nightmare landscape. Houses had collapsed or tilted at impossible angles. People wandered in shock, calling for family members. Then the fires started, dozens of them, fed by broken gas lines. Without functioning water mains, there was no way to fight them. Eleanor watched her house for hours as the fire approached, joining a crowd of displaced neighbors with nowhere to go. When the flames finally reached her home, she felt oddly detached. What did it matter? She'd already lost Thomas, already lost her future. The house was just wood and plaster. By evening, only the stone foundation and parts of the brick cellar walls remained, smoking ruins in a city of ruins. The refugee camps and desperate plans. Eleanor spent the next week in Golden Gate Park with thousands of other refugees. The army established tent camps and distributed food rations. People slept on blankets on the ground, shared stories of what they'd lost, and tried to comprehend the scope of the disaster. Some had lost entire families. Eleanor's grief felt both immense and somehow smaller in the face of such collective trauma. City officials began organizing recovery efforts. Property owners were encouraged to return to their lots to salvage what they could and clear debris. Many lots had been looted in the chaos following the quake, and the authorities wanted owners to secure their properties. Eleanor had no idea what she could possibly salvage from the ruins, but she made the journey back to Hayes Street. The block was unrecognizable. Where houses had stood were now just foundations and scattered bricks. Her lot was marked only by the remains of the chimney and the partially collapsed cellar walls. She stood there feeling lost until a neighbor, Mr. Chen, approached. "Mrs. Murphy," he said gently, "you should check your cellar. Sometimes things survive down there, dishes, tools, things you could sell." It seemed pointless, but she had nothing else to do. Digging through the ashes. Eleanor returned to her property with borrowed work gloves and a determination born of having nothing left to lose. The cellar was partially collapsed, filled with debris from the floors above. She began moving bricks and charred wood, creating a path down the damaged stairs. The work was exhausting and filthy. Ash covered everything. Her hands blistered even through the gloves. Several neighbors worked their own lots nearby, and occasionally they'd exchange tired greetings or share water. By the third day, Eleanor had cleared enough debris to reach the cellar floor. She found broken jars of preserves, rusted tools, a damaged trunk containing water-soaked linens, nothing of value. She was about to give up when she noticed something odd in the corner where the foundation met the cellar wall. Several bricks seemed different from the others, newer, less weathered. She touched them experimentally and felt movement. Her heart began to pound. She pulled at the bricks, and they came away easily, revealing a hollowed-out space behind them. Inside that space, covered in dust but untouched by fire, sat a heavy steel box approximately 2 feet long and 1 foot wide, with a sturdy lock securing the clasp. The impossible weight of gold. Eleanor struggled to lift the steel box. It was extraordinarily heavy. She managed to drag it into better light and examine the lock. It required a key she didn't have. For a moment, she considered leaving it, reporting it to authorities, but something stopped her. This box had been hidden in her cellar, behind bricks that Thomas must have placed. This was his secret. She found a broken pipe and used it to pry at the lock, working with desperate strength until finally the metal gave way with a crack. She opened the lid, and her breath caught. The box was filled with gold, gold coins, gold bars, even gold jewelry. Beneath the gold were bundled stacks of paper currency and official-looking documents. Eleanor's hands shook as she lifted a gold bar. It was stamped with markings she didn't understand. The coins were a mix of American double eagles and foreign currencies. There were hundreds of them. She had no idea of the exact value, but she understood immediately that this was a fortune, more money than she'd ever imagined touching, hidden beneath her house for years, while she'd mended clothes by candlelight to save pennies on lamp oil. Her first emotion wasn't joy. It was a complicated mixture of shock, confusion, and something close to anger. Who had her husband been? Where had this come from? And why had he let her believe they were barely scraping by? The truth in the documents. Eleanor carefully examined the documents in the box, her hands still shaking. There were ledgers filled with Thomas's handwriting, columns of numbers, dates, locations. There were receipts for gold purchases spanning 15 years. And there was a letter, sealed in wax, addressed to "My dear Eleanor," to be opened only if I do not return. She broke the seal with trembling fingers. The letter was dated 1904, 2 years before his death. In it, Thomas confessed everything. He had not been a simple dock clerk, or rather, he had been, but he'd also been something else. He had been quietly embezzling from the Pacific Mail Steamship Company for nearly 2 decades, skimming small amounts from cargo manifests, altering paperwork, taking advantage of his position as the man who verified and recorded valuable shipments. "I am not proud of what I've done," he wrote, "but I could not bear for you to live in poverty, though I know you believe we are poor now. I intended this fortune to secure your future when I was gone. I converted everything to gold because it holds value regardless of economic turmoil. Forgive me for the deception, for the crime, for keeping you in the dark. This is yours now. Use it wisely and well." Eleanor sat in the ruins of her cellar, holding her dead husband's confession, surrounded by stolen gold, and wept. The widow's choice. Eleanor faced an impossible decision. The Pacific Mail Steamship Company had been destroyed in the earthquake and fires, their offices burned, their records lost. Most of the company executives had fled the city or were dealing with their own disasters. In the chaos of post-earthquake San Francisco, no one was investigating 15-year-old bookkeeping discrepancies. She could take the gold, leave the city, and start over somewhere else with a fortune that no one even knew existed. But Eleanor wasn't built that way. She spent 3 sleepless nights in the refugee camp, the steel box hidden beneath her cot, wrestling with her conscience. Thomas had stolen this money. It didn't matter that the company had paid him poorly for years of labor. It didn't matter that his victims were wealthy executives who could absorb the loss. Theft was theft. Yet the company no longer existed in any functional form. Attempting to return the gold might be impossible or might implicate her as an accomplice. And she was desperate, alone, middle-aged, with no prospects and no savings in a destroyed city that would take years to rebuild. She finally reached a compromise with her conscience. She would use half the fortune to rebuild her life and would donate the other half to earthquake relief and reconstruction efforts, anonymously. It wasn't perfect justice, but it was the best she could manage. A new life built on complicated ground. Eleanor left San Francisco in May 1906 with a carefully concealed portion of the gold. She traveled to Portland, Oregon, where no one knew her history. She sold gold gradually and carefully through different dealers to avoid suspicion, converting it to legitimate currency. She purchased a modest boarding house and became a businesswoman, known for her fair treatment of tenants and her generous but anonymous donations to churches and charitable organizations. Back in San Francisco, large anonymous donations appeared for earthquake relief, funds that built temporary housing, fed displaced families, and helped rebuild schools. The money was delivered through lawyers with instructions that the source remain confidential. No one questioned good fortune in a time of such desperate need. Eleanor never remarried. She lived comfortably but not lavishly, always mindful of the complicated origins of her security. She employed women who needed work, widows, immigrants, women escaping difficult situations, paying them fairly and treating them with respect. In her private moments, she still wondered about Thomas. Had he intended to confess before he died? Had he struggled with guilt as she did now? She would never know. The remaining gold stayed hidden beneath a floorboard in her private room, a tangible reminder of the secrets people keep and the unexpected ways life transforms us. 10. The morality of survival and second chances. The story of Eleanor Murphy, though names and some details were changed to protect privacy, represents one of countless untold narratives from the 1906 San Francisco earthquake. In that catastrophic moment when the earth literally shifted beneath an entire city, many lives were transformed in unexpected ways. Some lost everything. Some discovered hidden strengths. And some, like Eleanor, found that disaster could unearth secrets that changed everything they thought they knew. The moral complexity of Eleanor's situation resists simple judgment. Thomas committed crimes. There's no defending embezzlement regardless of motivation. His decision to keep Eleanor in poverty while hoarding stolen wealth was itself a form of cruelty, however well-intentioned. Yet Eleanor's choice to keep half the fortune and donate half demonstrates a kind of practical ethics born from impossible circumstances. She couldn't undo Thomas's crimes, couldn't restore what he'd taken, and couldn't punish him for sins he'd already escaped through death. What this story illuminates is how survival sometimes requires us to navigate moral ambiguity. Eleanor could have reported the gold and faced potential prosecution as an accomplice, leaving her destitute with no way to survive. She could have kept everything and lived in luxury built entirely on theft. Instead, she chose a middle path, acknowledging the crime while also recognizing her own humanity and need for security, using her unexpected resources to help others while building a modest, dignified life. The deeper lesson extends beyond Eleanor's specific situation. People contain multitudes of contradictions. Thomas was both a devoted husband and a thief. Eleanor was both a victim of deception and a beneficiary of crime. We are rarely purely good or purely evil, but rather complex beings making imperfect choices in imperfect circumstances. The earthquake didn't just destroy buildings, it destroyed the comfortable illusions that let people maintain simple narratives about their lives. Eleanor's greatest achievement wasn't surviving the earthquake or even finding the gold. It was learning to live with moral complexity, to make the best choices possible within impossible circumstances, and to transform tainted fortune into genuine good through years of quiet generosity. She understood that second chances come with responsibilities, that gifts, even unexpected ones, carry weight, and that how we use what we're given matters more than how we received it. In the end, we're all left with imperfect knowledge and complicated choices. Eleanor did what she could with what she had, living with both gratitude and guilt, security and secrets. Much like the city of San Francisco itself, rebuilt on the rubble of its past, forever marked by the earthquake that destroyed and transformed it in equal measure.